There is a lot of information out there. As a debater, I have always had to research the most hot topic political issues. And no matter what hill I have to stand on, I can be sure that there is some researcher out there who stands with me. In fact, when researching the morality of the US plea bargaining system, I found a source that said that less than 1% of plea bargains are wrong. I'm not saying that this stat is incorrect if you're unaware about plea bargains. It's disputed, but this stat, it's definitely interesting. Nowadays, these unrealistic stats, less than 1%, more than 50%, are often attributed to AI. It does hallucinate a lot. But Google has this very fun feature that lets you go back in time and see what people were thinking. And this leads to absolute gems, such as how Facebook uses empathy to protect user data, or the pseudoscience of global warming in 2001. Now, these were both made by highly respectable authors, Harvard and Stanford respectively. And yet, they were still flawed. Obviously, they couldn't predict the future, and this is not Harvard nor Stanford's fault. Instead, these were both problems of how we transfer information. Because both these authors had sources that said the contrary of their headlines. And yet, these were ignored because of how information moves. Because both these authors fell victim to what I call the problem of the problem. Biologically, we are taught to be afraid of the unknown. This helped our ancestors back when the unknown was a tiger that could be trying to kill us. But nowadays, this has evolved into this problem, where people are afraid of living without an answer. Simply saying, this is a problem, is useless unless you are going to present a solution. And if you don't present one, then you will be defeated by someone who does, no matter how problematic their solution might be. What's interesting is that humans did not always have access to instant information. And if we look back to ancient Greece, when people didn't, you'll realize how hard information is to get. Back in Greece, if you wanted to know something, you had to travel to Delphi, sacrifice a goat, bathe in holy water, before an oracle will give you a riddle. You will spend the next 3 months deciphering this riddle. All to know a small tidbit of knowledge. All this contemplating made true information rare, yes, but it also meant that when you knew something, you really knew what you were talking about. And because you knew what you were talking about, misinformation didn't spread as fast. But ever since the 1700s, people have had access to instant information. Not only through AI like today, but also through YouTube, 24/7 news, and for the last 300 years, libraries full of books. And yet, while this information is a good thing, and it comes to contemplation, it's still problematic because of the time that the Greeks went through to get information. Just because information is out there, and even if it is true, does not mean that the person reading it understands what they're talking about. Back in Greece, people had to sit with uncertainty and face hard facts. Nowadays, people have so many headlines, they can look at the ones they like and ignore the ones they don't. In fact, this is the reason that people are drawn to headlines that are factually disputed. There is mass unemployment because of X. There is war because of Y. These headlines might have some ounce of truth, but they are not confirmed. This is not people's fault. This is simply human nature. People are prone to wanting an answer. And when the option is 1, a half-baked answer that's disputed, or 2, no answer, the option becomes clear. And this half-baked truth reinforces a cycle that leaders have to go through of presenting half-baked solutions to become successful. And yet, this is an incredibly suspicious form of delivery. Because This presents an easy victim to put any problem on. You can blame any minority, any target, and put that on them. So, because it can be used for such malignant purposes, such harmful purposes, it is important to know how to dispute this bias. Sometimes, all it takes is 2 minutes of uncertainty. But before I go on, I should confirm. This is rooted in our biology. It is completely impossible to completely stop it. But by just 2 minutes of uncertainty, we can interrupt this reaction. First, identify a claim. This could be from any TikTok, Instagram post, from any political party, as long as there is some sentence that is rooting its struggles in 1 or 2 sources. Second, completely ignore those sources. Figure out what that problem is, and once you have it, just sit with it. When you are living with an uncertain problem, you will face uncertainty. And finally, reason through it yourself. Figure out what is the real source of this problem. Think through it. Bring back that contemplation that the Greeks had. And once you do this, you might realize that the problem is a lot more convoluted than you first thought. And, of course, as I mentioned, this is part of our biology. It is completely impossible to 100% erase this. But by contemplating like a philosopher, although it might not always work, it can get us pretty close. Thank you.